Hey folks, this is Vint with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to quickly talk about X-Wing 2.5. Just when I was getting used to X-Wing 2.0, a new rule set kicks in, and this video is going to be a quick high-level overview of those rule changes so that you don't have to go sifting through all the different rule books, although I would recommend doing so anyway because I typically miss stuff. I am a casual player. I don't play in tournaments. I typically don't play with other people. All of my gaming with X-Wing has been at home or on Tabletop Simulator with friends. And if a roll, doesn't seem right or something's off, we just house roll it. That's just how we roll. But I will go over what the different rules are that have changed for X-Wing 2.5, and I'll show you where you can find the rest of it should you be interested in learning more. So, I'm going to go ahead and take you through this highly professional PowerPoint presentation that I put together at the last minute. So, here we go. Atomic Mass Games. Atomic Mass Games is like I don't want to say subsidiary, but it's like it's Asmodee's dedicated miniatures department. They took over for Fantasy Flight in November 2020. There's just a little backstory here for you. And then they announced in November 16th, 2020 here that they take their first steps into the Star Wars miniatures games. And then down below you can read about, Asmodee is announcing today that oversight of its 3 Star Wars miniature titles will be moving to their dedicated miniature game studio, Atomic Mass Games, and so on, so on, so on. Then we get to, now it's January, February, I think is when they announced it. I think it was more January, December. But anyway, they announced that 2.5 was going to be kicking in and are going to be shaking things up. The downside at that point in time was, there's no squad builder on their website that I could find. And the only news that we had was from documents that were just sent out to the public. So, it's kind of disorganized. Their website does a little better job now compared to before as to what these changes are, and I've had to refer to that on a regular basis. But anyway, getting to 2.5, let's go ahead and jump down into player order and initiative. So in the old rules, 2.0, initiative was determined at the start of the game before obstacles were placed. The player with the lowest squad point total got to choose who had initiative throughout the entire game. If there was a tie, you'd use a coin flip or a dice roll. But typically, you got to go, okay, you have initiative, meaning you move first and shoot first for the rest of the game. Not anymore. In 2.5, at game start before the objectives, dice roll determines starting player. Nope, just a dice roll, that's it. And then during the game, after dials are set every round, players roll to determine initiative. Now, how do you roll for initiative, at the beginning and during the game? Both players will roll 3 attack dice. The most crits wins. They don't get to choose who has initiative. They just get initiative. So whoever has the most crits wins. Tiebreaker is a focus. Whoever has the most focus results. And then if that's still a tie, then whoever has the most hits wins. There are no modifiers, and you don't get to choose who has initiative. And I spelled that wrong here. Is it going to let me fix it? Sure. Initiative? That's a word? When is initiative? Okay, anyway. So initiative. Yeah, it's weird. So now every round, after dials are figured out, you're going to roll to see who has initiative for that round. Again, 3 attack dice, whoever's the most crits wins. It's so weird. I'm not sure what to think about that. I kind of like it and I kind of don't because, sometimes, giving the other player initiative was good because you got to see where they were going first whenever there was a tie in pilot skill. So, I kind of like this, but it's more RNG now. I'm not sure I like that, but Anyway, squad loadout and points. So, in the old rules, pilots and upgrades had a unique loadout point value, both pilots and upgrades. These loadout points contributed to a squad value total, the max typically being 200 points. In the new rules, pilots now have loadout points, but upgrades do not. Pilots have a predetermined separate loadout value max that they observe for upgrades. So, Luke Skywalker might be given 7 points. Let's get to the rest of it first, because that's going to confuse you. Max squad points are now 20. Yeah, not 200, it's now 20. So all of the pilots have had their their numbers redesigned. So I'm going to go to the next slide real quick and show you. Luke Skywalker here has a squad point of 7 now. What was he, like 60 or 50 before, something like that? Now he's 7 out of 20. Now, in addition, each pilot has a predetermined upgrade point allocation. Luke here has 28. So you can go through the upgrades as you see fit and reach your max of 28 however you see fit. So if you don't use all 28 points, as far as I know, there's no penalty. I'll get to penalties later when it comes to squad building, but yeah, you just build up to 28 points for Luke here. And each pilot has a different point cost and upgrade allocation cost. So like the tier 1 or the pilot skilled 1 and 2s, they have a very low upgrade threshold. So you really can't do a whole lot with them. But with Luke, you can do all sorts of crazy things with him. Supposedly the pilots have also had their upgrade abilities changed. Like this pilot may have torpedoes, this one may have missiles, even though they're both X-Wing pilots. You know, that's what I read anyway. So this is from YASB. Speaking of which, the squad builder on Fantasy Flight has not been updated yet, assuming it ever will be. YASB has a new website that you can go to, and it will include the 2.5 rule set. Whether or not it's complete yet, I don't know. I haven't been keeping up to date with that, but they are working hard to update it. There may be some other squad builders that I'm not aware of that may be doing the same thing, but as far as I know, the Fantasy Flight one, still 2.0, assuming it ever will get updated. So that's that's completely new. The whole, pilots it's 20 points. Pilots have, a squad value, but the upgrades do not. But each pilot has a threshold for these upgrades. It's so strange. Moving on to attack and defend range bonuses. So old rules 2.0. At range 0 and 1, you got to roll an extra attack die. Okay. And then players cannot typically attack at range 0 unless an ability states otherwise. In 2.5, players can attack at range 0, but they do not get any bonus dice. So in 2.5, you can now attack at range 0, but you just don't get any bonus dice for doing so. The attacker cannot add dice or modify unless you use the Force for its default effect. So that's interesting. And then defenders, they cannot modify, cancel, or remove dice at range 0. So it's just whatever the dice roll, that's typically it, unless you've got Force for the attacker. So yeah, that's different. So from my understanding, all of the pilots that have like range 0 exceptions have been reworked. What they are, I haven't looked them up yet. I'm not that hardcore. But yeah, so that's a thing now. Overlapping, old rules 2.0. Typically, you just skip your action step unless abilities say otherwise. You run into someone, you bump, and you don't take an action. Now it's a bit more complicated. In 2.5, when you overlap an enemy ship, you skip your action, but you may perform a red focus or calculate action. That gives you a stress. No additional actions possible unless abilities say otherwise. So there's a couple of abilities in 2.0 that let you like, I may hit something, I can pop this now and get a red action before I do it or something like that. Now that seems to be a default thing. If you overlap a friendly ship, you skip your action and you roll 1 attack die. On a hit or crit, suffer that damage. That's pretty nasty. Crazy. Overlap both. If you happen to overlap both an enemy and a friendly base at the same time, like you land right on both. It's crazy, but it rarely happens, but you would perform the friendly action above. Just roll a die and you take a hit on a hit or crit. So that's overlapping. Tractored tokens, old rules, the player who inflicted tractored on a ship may boost a barrel roll on the inflicted ship using that one straight token, or the template. Then that ship may be forced onto or through an obstacle. And then after tractor movement, if the ship was moved by the opponent, the player may rotate the ship 90 degrees and gain a stress token. 2.5, same, except that ship may not be forced now onto an obstacle or through one. So you can't, like, force an enemy through an obstacle or onto an obstacle. That's basically the gist of that. And speaking of obstacles, I just quickly outlined this for you. There were some changes to how obstacles operated. But, like, there's always now a default penalty. Like, if a ship ends a maneuver overlapping an obstacle, it skips its perform action step. That's always the typical. Asteroids, as you can see, are a bit different. The ship suffers 1 damage. You no longer roll for damage. You automatically suffer 1 damage. Then you roll 1 attack die. On a hit or crit result, the ship suffers an additional damage. I like that better. It makes obstacles a bit more scary. And then you can read the rest here. This is straight from the rulebook, and I'll get to where you can find that later. Also new, I don't know if I'll ever do this because I'm not big on scenarios and missions. I just like a good old-fashioned sandbox, but, or skirmish. There are 4 new mission/scenarios. There's Assault the Satellite Array, Chance Engagement, Salvage Mission, Scramble the Transmissions. So these are, these are ways for players to, like, I don't know, like, there are specific things you have to do in these missions, so you're going to cater your squad to a particular style of play. So there's deficit scoring in this, meaning players under the 20 squad point max take their difference from 20 and give those points to their opponent. So if they end up with 19 out of 20 points, that 1 point will go to their opponent automatically. So players are encouraged now to max out their 20. Yeah. Points awarded for scenario-specific goals. That's typical. If you do something in the scenario that you're supposed to do, you get points for it. You may earn points for having or destroying enemy ships. It depends on the scenario. There's a calculation on that. I think it's like divided by 10 or something like that. And then it's 20 mission points wins. There's a 12-round limit. So that's a quick overview of missions. There's a whole lot more to it than that. But that's just, again, a high-level overview. You can find more information about a lot of this stuff on, again, Asmodee or / Atomic Mass Games, X-Wing documents. There's a link there that you can't click on because it's a YouTube video, but that's the link. And then on the right, there's like X-Wing rules reference, the errata, ship points, upgrade points, scenarios, ban list, upgrades, stuff like that. Here's a quick look at some of the things you'll find there. Ship point document, scenarios, how to handle each one. And again, pause if you want to see this in greater detail. Effective date 3/1/2022 according to this. So it just hit effect. So there you go, folks. That was just a quick overview of X-Wing 2.5. I do and I don't like this. I feel like, according to the Atomic Games, they did this to bring X-Wing back to its roots and to make it more action-packed. I can see where they're going with that based on some of these changes, but I feel like I'm now more limited in my squad building. X-Wing 1.0, you could put anything on almost anything, okay? Like, you had Sunterfell with, you had like 5 different upgrades on him, and he was rolling 6 defense dice by default or whatever it was. It was ridiculous. And then they reined that in X-Wing 2.0, and now they're reining it even further in 2.5. So yeah, they're making it more action-packed. Maybe these scenarios will help people stay like around an objective. Like, you can't turtle up in a corner anymore, like you could do with some bomber builds. With a mission, you're forced to go after the objective. I like that. It prevents the whole turtling thing, but at the same time, it limits players to their particular play style. It forces them to play a certain way, and the squad builder, which again is not up on Fantasy Flight but is up on YSAB, it's like I feel like I'm more limited than what I was before, even more so. I have mixed feelings about it. Having not played the 2.5 rule set yet, I can't offer much more than that, but hopefully this gives you a small taste into the 2.5 X-Wing universe. If you guys haven't already, subscribe to me on Twitch and YouTube. That way you can stay up to date with any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.